Hello and welcome to another episode of the famous
Of what?
Lume
Blotters.
Blotters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Another doozy for you today.
A doozy.
A doozy. Back to back, coming from
this is riveting
information.
Yes, we are talking about something that is dividing the watch world.
No, something that not just that. Let's go broader. Something that a lot of people underestimate and overlook, and that is watch storage. How do you keep your watches? What do you keep them in? How do you travel with them? Do you use a winder? Do you not use a winder? And so forth and so forth. So today's topic is, like we did the straps episode, this is the storage episode. Where to keep your watches and how.
It can change your entire watch collecting, depending what kind of storage you choose.
Philosophically speaking, absolutely.
Yeah. You know, some people
We'll get into this. So.
Okay, then.
In the meantime, what are you wearing on your wrist?
I am wearing my new Tissot PRX chronograph Panda dial.
Alrighty. I am wearing my Rolex Submariner 114060. Here's a little bezel action.
Yeah, we don't hear that. I know there's a bit.
You don't hear.
Our audio cleanup program might think it's a background noise, so it might just
maybe you might not hear anything. But that reminds me, I have not put it on my wrist check app.
Oh, yeah.
So I need to add that into my wrist check app as well. But yes, of course, I am a huge dive watch fan, and still best bezel action ever, period, bar none, no competition.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. I must say that I think from a bezel action there is a Rolex and Tudor is on a different level there. Yeah.
So I still think that Rolex outdoes Tudor, but it's unbelievable how good the Tudors are as well. Personally, for your Tudor Pelagos 39, very good. And all the other Tudors as well. Aside from mine, I don't like 60 click bezels. I want 120 click bezels. And the only Tudor to offer a 120 click bezel, of course, is my FXD. All the other ones have the 60 click. So, I don't know why I like them. I think it's because it feels more precise, I guess. Yeah, you get to set it to exactly where you want.
Yeah, and these big clicks are not... I think I am with you there. I feel it makes a lot of sense to have a smaller, more detailed clicking one, just
and
setting.
Rotating fast sounds better. Meanwhile, on the Tudors, the detent, I guess is what it would be called. When you click over, it's a big click, it's a loud click, and it's a big force as well. It's a jump almost. So going quickly is not as satisfying. OCD kind of sitting there, ADHD style fidget spinner. It's not as much fun to do it on a Tudor as it is on the Rolex.
What I like about my Seiko is the Seiko Sumo that has just been sold. I love the bezel action because it's it has not just one click. It has like this click, 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 click. It goes to, I don't know, it feels like there's a lot of stuff happening in the bezel. It's a softer action, not as harsh. But it felt very refined, even though it had a bit of play, a tiny bit. I don't know. I really enjoyed that bezel, but it's gone now.
I guess
new owner.
This is one of the reasons I don't like Rolex GMTs.
Yes,
is because the click is it leaves something to be desired. It is like just like a flaccid plop.
You don't. I mean, I got my GMT Master 2 as my first Rolex GMT Master. And I must admit, first of all, I really dislike a 24-hour clicks. 24 clicks. That is completely useless for me. I do not understand why you are omitting 1/3 of the world with this, basically, or 1/4 of the world, which lives in a half-hour time
half
zones.
hours.
Because you can't set it to half-hour time zones. It's just beyond me, because older versions of the GMT Master 2 had 48 clicks. Tudor GMT watches still have 48 clicks. Why has Rolex decided 24 is the magic number? And of course, these are big clicks, right? I mean, for 60, these are very big clicks, and they're not, I mean, my GMT Master 2 is not something I'm just rotating out of fun. It's just not.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the sub I do
it's a
rotate
bit,
out of
yeah,
fun.
exactly. With all the other watches you do because it's fun, but with this one, it's just like, nah.
So honorable mention goes to my Oris. The Oris has a very, very fine mechanism, ratcheting mechanism. On the other hand, my Seiko SKX was so dull. It was just, I mean, it was almost as if you're rubbing sandpaper across a wound. It was not very fun.
Well, that sounds more painful, actually.
Yeah.
Very painful.
It was roughly the same. So,
okay. So,
anyway, on that
today.
bombshell, it's time to end. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Bye-bye.
Exactly. Back. Buy a watch box.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. So, essentially, we're talking about storage. Ralph posed this idea for an episode. He wanted to talk about winders, but
Yes.
I forcefully told him, no, we should talk about every type of watch storage possible. So that includes, I guess, 3 categories of watch storage. 1, travel storage. 2, stationary home storage. And 3, it's going to be winders, winding storage, right? Storage that does something else. So these are the 3 topics. So let's start with the big one, I guess, which is, how do we keep our watches at home? Ralph, we've talked about this already, so it's no surprise, but...
Well, I have changed my watch box recently. I had a 24 slot watch box from Amazon, a cheap and cheerful 150 dirham watch box. I have thrown it out, and I have
Thank God.
gone back to my brown leather Wolf watch box with 12 spaces. So it's a stacked one, right? So the top one has a glass
Yep.
thing, and the other one on the bottom does not. So you put them on top of each other. Much smaller footprint, obviously, and very nice. My wife has a watch, also a Wolf watch box, I think. And that's what we put our watches in. That's it. And then everything that's a spillover that gets into my Pelican watch cases that are padded and gets into that. And if it's really, really just an F91W Casio, then it might end up in a drawer.
Yes, I was going to say this. So I'm the same way. I have a Rapport London 8 watch box. I absolutely love it. And this is one of the things that I despise when somebody sends me a picture of a watch box or their collection, and they have a ridiculous collection, and then they're using one of these stupid Amazon watch boxes with still the silica pads in there to like draw the moisture out that they shipped with. It's a shame. Like, guys, seriously, you spent so much money, effort, time collecting these watches and paying for them and working your butt off to get them, and you're going to put them in a 150 dirham watch box for 24 watches?
But look,
come on.
Look, which, you could say, look, you're very focused on what kind of, shoes you wear, clothes you wear, watches you have, and then you drive in a Pajero. So same. Yeah.
So I guess each person has their own topics. No, I understand where you're going with this.
Sometimes
because
watch boxes
I
are just
consciously made the decision, obviously,
keep the dust out.
to not sell watches to buy a better car, right?
Yes.
And that was a conscious thing, right? We discussed this. Like, should I buy a Porsche 911? Should I sell some watches and buy a 911? But then, of course, the downside is, and this is my personal opinion, is if you buy the nicer cars, you're putting them into the world, right? You're not in control. Other people are around you. And then those other people can hurt your precious car. And that's my big thing is in UAE, we know the traffic is monstrously horrendous. Lots of accidents, all kinds of issues. The shops are not the best, the workshops. So you end up with, the question, at least if I have my watches, it's very unlikely that it's going to be in an accident, right? Somebody's going to rear end my watch.
My biggest, my difference there is that since I'm working mostly from home, they usually say that your car is being used only 99% of the time. It's just standing. It's not doing anything. It's not driving anywhere.
Yeah.
And I can just if you think about how many minutes in a day you actually use your car. Nowadays, of course, the traffic is so bad that you might use it a bit more. You might spend more time in your car than you want to. But in general, how many minutes are in a day? 1,400. No, that can't be right. Yes, of course, 1,440. Yeah. So 1,440 minutes. So generally, if you have a commute of 20 minutes, 1,400 minutes in 24
the
hours.
Percentage of time you're on there. But no, here's the thing.
And so that's what I'm saying. A watch you can enjoy so much more time during your day.
Yes.
Than a car.
I agree wholeheartedly. Right? But I do have to say, it's also a thing that while your car is sitting there, it can still get destroyed.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
And that's the thing is with my watch box at home, I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine. Like I don't have to leave the house worrying about what's going to happen. Once again, this is UAE specific. If you live in London, I would leave the house and worry about my watch box as well. But here in UAE, we don't have to. We can leave the watch boxes at home. And we don't need safety deposit boxes and all kinds of other things that other people in the world would need. But nonetheless,
you should still
use case.
Insure your watches, though. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Insure your watches by all means. We'll talk about that in a moment as well. But nonetheless, the point of my story is
you're not talking
both of my
insurance.
cars were destroyed by hail in the last 2 weeks. And my watches are fine. And this made me glad that I didn't invest more time, effort, money into these cars. Because it's so out of your control that
it's also just generally you have to choose your poison, right, to a certain extent. If you have expensive hobbies and you can't have all the hobbies and all the things, right, you can't do
the ideal world you'd be rich enough to have all the hobbies.
I have all the paintings and all of the art and craft and all of the travel that I want and all of the watches. See, my wife just told me we are going next month again to Africa, even though we have a safari planned for July.
Okay.
We are going again. Before.
Why not?
Yeah. So that's always the price.
So you're going during Eid or Ramadan or what?
Before Eid. So that's all the price of a watch, right? These trips are not cheap. Right, so we are going to nice places. So anyhow, these are the things when you think, that could have been a nice watch.
And that's the same way I think about it as well.
So obviously, I love travel because that's why I'm going with my wife, because we love both. We love Africa, we love nature, so we really get a lot from it. And of course, these are experiences that nobody can take you. Right, it's even better because this is completely non-destroyable. Unless you lose your brain capacity somehow. Right? Yeah. But other than that, these experiences will always stay with you. Anyhow, so talking about storage and watch finders now, we have to get to topic. A nice box is nice. Opening and closing nice boxes is nicer than opening and closing a shitty watch box. I realized that. The problem was that I just didn't know what to do because I didn't want to buy a really expensive 24 slot box because I wanted to reduce, right? So that's why, that's why I chose the smaller one.
And now this is a big issue because when a person goes out and buys a watch box, they don't realize that this watch box will essentially guide their collecting habits for the time that they have this watch box. So Now, I went, when I was buying my watch box, I only had 3 watches. And I've had this watch box for longer than most of my watches. And that's why I like that I did get a good one, because it's still here. So I was between a 5 watch box or an 8 watch box. And the only reason I chose the 8 watch box, the 8 watch box, was because the look of a 5 watch box in a row, it just looks strange, right? A single line, like a longitudinal kind of line of watches. It's weird. But the 4 and 4, it's, I don't know, aesthetically pleasing. I feel like a 4 watch box is also aesthetically pleasing, like a 2 and 2. Any of these type of even numbers generally end up looking good. So I did buy this, and then I was like, shit, I only have 3 watches. So I quickly went out. I was in the process of getting a 4th one. Prior to this, I had my watches on a valet tray, just laid out. I only had 3 watches, but I did buy a 4th watch. And the problem was the 4th watch was my first reverso, not the one that I currently have, but a previous one. That issue was it wouldn't lay flat. So I realized this issue fairly quickly. You can't just put it flat on the ground because it stands up. The strap won't bend fully flat. So I knew that I needed to put it onto some kind of a cushion. So that's what prompted this whole looking at watch boxes. And then quickly, got my 8 watch box, and then started filling it up. And then somehow, philosophically speaking, when you fill up your watch box, you feel done. It completes you. And until you buy a larger watch box, you feel all right. And I'm still at that point where I've had a lot of watches come and go out of this watch box. But what remained was the essential core, the size that 8 watches. I didn't mention this, but I do have 2 other watches. One is still on a valet tray. My Tudor Pelagos FXD is on a valet tray next to my watch box, along with my pens. And then I have a single watch box for my Oris Hodinkee.
Okay.
And then I put all my G-Shocks in a drawer. Just chunk them in there. So with the extra straps and everything that I have. So essentially, I still know that the first watches to be sold will be the ones outside of the box. The watch box is the core. That's what I want to maintain. Anything around it can kind of ebb and flow, come and go as you see fit.
No, but for me, it's different. For me, things in the watch box come and go, because these are the watches that are valuable. Because the ones that are not in the watch box, it don't matter if I sell them or not. It doesn't finance a new watch.
Yeah, but for me, I don't like to hoard. I don't want to, we talked about this before, hoarding versus collecting, right? I don't want to hoard. Even if it's a cheap $100 G-Shock. If I don't want it, if it doesn't bring me joy, like that Japanese lady said, what was her name? Do you remember the one that brings joy lady? The one that did the house cleaning? She always said, if it doesn't bring you joy, get rid of it. And that's the way I am. If it doesn't bring me joy, like my Hodinkee G-Shock that I just got, it's gone. It's out. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to think about it. It's that simple.
Yeah, but even if it brought you joy, it's sometimes it's just like time to part ways. I'm cutting down. I'm selling so many. I've just had 7 or 8 watches on that are sold.
Auction.
Or even more than that, I think. No, it was 7. 8. Sorry, 8. 5 of them sold. 3 are still there. So G-Shocks that need to probably some price adjustment. But so I'm also trying to not hoard, but I think hoarding is a bit running in my genes. So I think I have some genes from my mom who is not a hoarder per se, but she doesn't like to get rid of things. So I have to just overcome this, right? Yeah. In specific terms, when you think like, oh no, but I could keep it, and you're like, no. And my wife is also completely a throw person, right? She's like, you don't need it, throw it.
Get rid of it,
or let's get rid of it, not throw it, but it's like get it out of, sell it, do something, just get
You're
it.
more than welcome to throw the watches at me, and then I will deal with them. It's fine.
But the idea is there is really that you just go and just clean up. And that's a good thing to do. I think it's very liberating. I realized that when you get rid of things, it's actually just removing burdens sometimes, right? It's just like feels good to clean up and unclutter your life. It's really nice. It's I can only tell everybody it's a good thing to do. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
so let me
but I agree with you that a watch. Yeah, I wanted to respond to the watch box, and filling it up is a bit of a thing to do, and I think that's you feel like empty space needs to be filled to a certain extent, because it does look odd if you have an 8-slot watch box and there is only 3 watches in it. It does feel weird, right?
Yes. And it's not just me, right? We've had a number of people on this show that have come in.
Yeah.
And we ask them always this question: how many watches in your collection and how big is your watch box?
Correct. Yeah.
And every single one of them said, I have an 8-watch collection with an 8-watch box, or I have it's very similar. And we have found philosophically that it is the size of the box that will drive ultimately the size of the collection, which is so stupid. We have guys that have 100,000 dirham watches, and their 2,000 dirham watch box is the one telling them, no, you can't buy another one.
But you see, I had the same thing when I realized that when my stacked watch box, when the one on top, right, is the one you see and you open first. So you actually just think, well, 6 watches is actually also quite fine. I could live with that, theoretically, right? You still, and at one stage I was like, where's actually this watch? And I thought, it's just underneath, right? And then realized, oh, look, there's another 6 watches there that you didn't have top of mind, right? So you think, okay, that's when you suddenly think like, yeah, I could possibly go even smaller, right, than that.
Yeah.
So it's a good thought to have.
Nonetheless, this is not a conversation about getting rid of watches or anything.
No.
Right now, let's talk specifically about storage. Now, here's the question for you. You bought a watch box.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever consider buying a winder?
I had winders, yes.
You had? Okay. So I had thought about it, but I never actually did. I never actually bought one, but I did think about it.
Yeah.
So now tell me.
I'm in complete split minds. And again, the watch world is split. I recently watched a couple of German-speaking watchmakers. Watchmakers talk about the benefits or the downsides of watch winders. So most of the watchmakers that I heard talk about watch winders all say, I personally don't have one. There's very, very few watchmakers who actually work on watches every day to say, I have and use watch winders. Most of them don't. They use them to check how watches keep their power reserve and all of the stuff when they work on watches, right? They have these ones that rotate in different ways and simulate wearing and all of the stuff. But in private for themselves, most of them don't do that. So 2 things.
Let me just put this way. I don't know a single person that has a watch winder.
I know a lot of people who have watch winders.
I don't know anyone.
I have a friend who has a watch winder for every single watch he owns, and he owns more than my 24-box watch collection. And he has in his safe watch winders for everything.
Wow.
It happens. So there are people who have this because you just want to grab any watch and go, right? Because it's then still running. I realized that I enjoy a lot setting watches. I just love the whole brimborium, the process of setting the watch, setting the time, setting even the moon phase if it needs to, and all of this stuff. I just enjoy it, right? Obviously, you can't sometimes do this in the early morning when you have in the time restrictions.
With a Patek perpetual calendar. Yeah.
It's like,
let's just,
but
what is the year again?
But it is a nice, I love interacting with my watches. I love doing this. So I decided that watch winders are not necessarily something I need. However, now that my wife has a day date 1803, which is a non-quickset Rolex day date, which you always have to wind back and forth over the date change, like, I don't know, 8 hours back and forth or something. It is a bit annoying, especially when you have to do the date and then
your GMT does the same thing. Your GMT.
Yeah, but that's quick.
It's also not quick set.
But that's three turns of the crown, and you're in the next date.
What? No, we're not talking about the next date. We're talking about you wore it, let's say 15 days ago. You have to catch up. Yeah. That's going to be a lot of winding.
No. It's an independent hour hand. It's quick.
Yeah, it is. It's 3 turns gets you 1, 2, 3, 6 turns. So 3 turns gets you 12 hours, roughly.
No,
6 turns gets you a day.
Not with the independent hour hand. Much quicker.
Yes.
No.
So I'm talking from what I've done. Generally, it's about 4, 5, 6 turns will get you through one day. I wish you had it with you because we could demonstrate.
Okay, I can tell you that here with the Moser, right? It has an independent hour hand. So let me do this. Let me go 1 day 4. Okay, exactly 12 with 1 turn. So 2 turns.
Okay.
With the independent
2
hour
turns
hand.
for one
day,
half day.
24 hours. No, for 1 day.
What?
Yeah. See? Yeah. I don't know if you can see it.
Wait. Hold on. This is for your GMT hand.
Yeah.
So this is not a traveler's watch. No, so we cannot talk about this because we need the quick set to be on the hour hand. If it's on the jumping hour hand, you have to go around twice to get 1 day.
Yeah, I have to do the same here. I have to go around twice. And it's 12 hours in one time. The GMT is always
12 hours.
It always
No, it's not always. It's not always.
Okay.
A GMT can be 2 types, right?
Yes, but then if you have the
caller or traveler,
if you have the caller one, then it's in any case you can have a quick set date.
Yes, you can. So, but now we're talking about I'm talking about my Grand Seiko specifically here, which is very similar to your Rolex.
Does it have a jumping hour hand?
It does, yes.
Yeah,
so I jump through, and 1 turn will get me about a quarter of a day. So 6 hours.
Really?
1 turn is 6 hours.
With a Rolex GMT, it's like 12 or something. You get 12 hours in 1 turn.
So this is what I would be curious as to seeing, plus also how big is the turn.
So it's just like 2 turns in 1 day. So it's
nonetheless, I did have to do 15 days just recently, and it sucks.
Nah. So yeah, but I don't think that's a lot. I mean, I think it's
and it's always when I'm late. It's always when I'm running late, right? It's never like I have so much time.
You can always set the date later. Right?
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not. What are we, animals? Oh, you have to set it before you put it on.
Imagine I'm on my way to work. I'm on the wrong date.
How many times did you set a watch either an hour forward or an hour behind accidentally?
Not that much for an hour.
For me, it's like a million.
But
there's been so many instances where I'm looking at it. It's like, it's 1:30, and it was actually 2:30.
Not an hour. Strangely enough, I'm more like the 5-minute pre or post. For whatever reason, I don't know. It's like you set the watch to 11:25, and I always synchronize the second hand, right?
Yeah, me too.
And for whatever reason, sometimes I'm 5 minutes off. And then I get a shock because I think, oh shit, the watch is going slow, right?
Yes, exactly the same here too.
Damn, this is weird. 5 minutes. Well, how did the watch lose 5 minutes? But most likely it was human error.
Yeah, exactly. No, I've done the same thing. I've done both the 5-minute thing as well as the hour thing, just 1 hour aside or 5 minutes in either way. And it's a heart attack each time.
Yeah. So I do understand why people use watchwinders, especially with complicated watches, perpetual calendars, or even annual calendars. They can be a bit of a pain, especially with the moon phase and all of this stuff. So what I usually do is every 2-3 days, when I look at my watch box and I use my annual calendars, especially the ones with the moon phase, I just manually move them forward so that everything is fine. I don't have to worry about it. So whenever I want to pick it up, it's not too bad to just move it forward.
All right. Now, here's the thing that I have with this.
However, with the watchwinders, the one thing is the big debate is not about utility. I think we understand what the utility is. You don't have to wind your watch. A watchwinder is actually keeping the watch wound in that area. A good watchwinder realizes, obviously it works only with automatic watches, one thing.
And that's another thing reason I didn't have one is because I have a lot of manual wind.
So
that
wind,
wouldn't do me much good, yeah.
The second thing is obviously you need to set your watch winder independently for each watch. Some watches have an automatic winding that works in a specific, clockwise, anti-clockwise, or bidirectional. Most modern watches and most Seikos have this magic lever system, so they work bidirectional. The more efficient winding system usually is unidirectional, which is a bit weird, but it is more effective in winding the watch quick, strangely enough. But that's a different story for a different podcast. But you need to know which way it winds and how many winds per day you should have in order for it to keep its power reserve. You do not
want overwind it, right?
Correct. You don't want the watch winder to wind your watch up, right? You want it to just keep whatever it has and keep it there. Obviously, an automatic watch has like a clutch or something, a slip thing that you can't overwind it, because otherwise automatic watches would constantly break. Manual wound watches usually don't have this slip or this clutch. I don't think it's a clutch. It's actually a slipping thing, right? In the mainspring. But you shouldn't necessarily overwind the watch all the time, right? When it's running all the time. Usually when you pick up a watch, you didn't wear it overnight or for a day or two, while you wear it, it will wind up. It will be fully wound by the end of the day or end of 2 days of continuous wearing or something. And that's okay. But if you put it on the watch winder, it shouldn't actually add anything to it. It just keep it where it is. So that's why you have to go the turns per day. You have to set them properly, anti-clockwise, clockwise, both, right? And the amount of turns per day. That usually varies between 600 and 1200 turns per day. And every movement has a specific one. Now, the next question that is very important for that, once you have done that, and it can be set independent for each of the watch slots that you have in your watch winder, if it's not a single one, is it good for the watch to continuously run?
Wear and tear, right? Because that's the thing is I look at it like if I had a car, and let's take Jay Leno, for example, right? The guy has a million bajillion cars.
Mm-hmm.
They're mostly just sitting there, right? And that ends up being, if he wants to use one, he's going to tell his mechanic, okay, get this one ready to use, and he will take it for a day, and then he won't touch it again for 365 days. But essentially, that's the kind of the philosophy I take towards watches. I don't want every single one of my watches running all the time. I feel, from a mechanical standpoint, that having your watches rest the least amount of time that they operate, the longer the lifespan of these components will be. And that's just simple mechanics, right? Other people argue that by having the watch sit still, the oils and lubricants will congeal and they will not be fluid anymore.
That's rubbish.
So this is the big debate. And that's I think that is
so
rubbish.
Watchmakers have said that was back then when we didn't use synthetic oils. That was true. But it's not anymore.
So when did they start using synthetics?
Oh, you can't have a watch that is serviced in the last 20 years that doesn't have synthetic oils.
Okay, good to know.
At least that's all. And every watch that has been serviced doesn't have natural oils anymore. They are now.
Yeah. And anytime there's a clicking, a ticking, there's wear. They
were made of certain, what is it called? The sap of trees and all of the stuff. There was a lot of stuff in that could thicken up in the old oils. In the new oils, synthetic oils, nothing is going to just stick. The next thing is distribution of the oil. Is it good if you keep a watch running in one specific direction? No. If it runs the entire year in one specific, crown down on the desk, and it runs the entire year like that, a mechanical watch would not be good. But of course, you have a power reserve, so a watch won't run. If you put it down and it just runs dead in this direction,
until it dies,
fine. because the distribution of the oil is usually, they have certain things that watchmakers use where actually oil, before they put the oil in, they put the other thing there where they can actually make sure that the oil will stay in that specific spot because of surface tension and all of this rubbish. So there's thousands of things that watchmakers can ensure that the watch is lubricated. So you don't, as an owner, don't have to really worry about it. Is it a big problem if the watch runs continuously? No, it's not. Is there a bit more wear and tear? Yes, there is. But is it significant? That's the next question. And that's where you think, let's do this. If you have a watch with a 70-hour power reserve, which is now the more or less standard, right? And you wear it once a week. And let's assume by the end of 24 hours, the watch actually has a full power reserve, right? So you end up with 24 hours. Let's say that you wear the watch, or let's say 12 hours, plus the 70 hours power reserve. So you have 12, then you have 82 hours. And this is, you wear the watch every week. So you have 52 times 82 hours. So that's 4,260 roughly hours that the watch runs.
Per year.
Yeah. Now, assuming that you are running the watch 24/7, that would be 8,760. So it's just half. So it's not really that much of a difference. 4,000 hours. So if you think about this, if you should service the watch every 10 years, so that you have 10 years, that would be 90,000 hours. Nah, right? You have to service the watch in any case after 10 years or 5 years or whatever. The service interval is not meant necessarily only for the wear and tear, right? This assumes that you wear the watch continuously, right?
Does it? I was going to ask you this.
Yes.
So when Rolex has 10 years, does that mean...
Nobody assumes that you have more than one watch.
But then that means if I am, as you said, wearing it once a week.
Yes.
Which I would say is probably more my speed. Once a week.
Yeah.
And I'm using it half as much. That means my service just got extended to 20 years.
Not really. I mean, first of all, the watch still runs for 3 days after you put it down, right?
No. That's what I'm saying is your numbers right now just hold us 4,000 whatever hours for if you wear it for 12 hours plus this 70 power reserve. And then on top of this, we talked about the continuous wearing, right? Continuous wearing is the assumption. So that means it's half the time if I only wear it for 1 day plus power reserve. So if they're assuming continuous wear for 10 years and mine is only half that, that means I shouldn't service it every 10 years.
Yeah,
I can go 20.
Technically, yes. But factually, every watchmaker will tell you, no, after 10 years, you should still service the watch because you have other things that break down. Synthetic oils usually have a longer life. But after 10 years, you should still, they can actually evaporate. They still do to a certain extent. So that means that they just disappear. Depending on the temperature, depending on all of the other things that happens, humidity, they can draw in some humidity, they cannot, and whatever. So the oils should be changed after 10 years, roughly, more or less. Yes, you will have always people who say, this watch runs for 40 years and it doesn't have an issue. You have to consider this like a car. Can you drive your car for 5,000 kilometers without changing the oil? Sure. Can you drive your car for 50,000 kilometers without changing the oil? You can. But your car engine will have damage, most likely after 50,000 kilometers with the same oil. Because the oil is not anymore good enough. It doesn't do the lubrication so well. You have wear and tear. And this is where watch servicing is also preventive, right? They will change whatever needs to be changed during a service. But in order, you might not have to change something for 30 years or 40 years if you get it serviced every 10 years.
Yes, but we talked about this as well, right?
So
it's the primary cost
it is also
them taking it apart. The parts are negligible.
Yeah, to a certain extent. The most used, unless, of course, you have really some parts that are more expensive that need to be replaced because they were not lubricated, right? So if you need a new escapement or whatever stuff, that could be a bit more expensive, depending on what watch it is, than just a little tooth wheel or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. However, what I'm saying with that is I don't think it makes a big difference from the service perspective, because you should always check the watch for, the gaskets and the rubbers and all of the stuff that actually gets porous and brittle and eventually needs changing.
This is one of the things that we should mention, right?
Yeah.
Is the fact is a watch probably after its service date is no longer considered water resistant.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So there are benefits to servicing, but once again, here we are entirely off topic. But
no, I mean, it's still about, this is why it's so dividing, this topic. But watchmakers say like, no, wear your watch, fine. If you put it in a watchfinder, fine. Just bring it, normal service intervals. If you don't wear it, it is not making such a big difference. You should still bring it to service after the normal service intervals. Preventive. Mm-hmm. Could it work?
And are you taking every one of your watches in for normal service intervals?
See, funny enough, I don't actually have owned a watch 10 years long yet.
Yep.
That is a mechanical watch that I deem needed to be serviced. I mean, a Seiko 5 that I have for 10 years, I want service.
I gotcha.
I just replace it because the service is more expensive than a new one. So no, I have serviced watches. Yes, I have serviced Rolex watches. I have serviced JLC for my wife. We have serviced Breitling watches. I have serviced my Breitling watch. Yes, that I had.
But
for
all
more than 10
because there
years.
was issues. Or was it because it was something was wrong, or was it because or you just wanted to service it?
Well, generally, when it was time, one I wanted to get freshened up, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Just from I wanted to have more polish.
I mentioned this in the last episode. My Speedy is making some strange noises. I think it is about time. That one gave a 5-year service interval. I've had it for 7 now. Probably time to take it in.
So yeah, I do feel you should do it. I mean, will it be expensive to certain amount? Some of my watches, yeah. When I look at my, perpetual calendar Villeray from Blancpain, that will probably cost a bit more than, I don't know, just normal Rolex. I mean, they say always the prices depend on the complications, right? So a perpetual calendar, especially the old ones, is expensive, right? The old ones are very, very, hard to service. Some say that Zenith El Primero movements are not the easiest to service, for example, or some chronograph movements are harder than others. So, there is costs involved, so you have to see. Generally, with the Rolex, for example, because they're so well designed for longevity and for robustness, I always feel, and they do this whole one price. We replace everything that needs replacement on an exchange basis or whatever, right? If you haven't serviced it for 10 years or 20 years, it doesn't matter. You probably pay the same amount because the thing that actually wears down is the thing that probably you replace anyway. So it's a normal price. But if you go to an independent watchmaker, he will charge you just for the normal service and for every part that needs replacing because he doesn't do these bundle deals, right? So there you have to be more careful. If there's a lot to be replaced, it might be very expensive. So it's probably better to go regularly if you use independent watchmakers. Anyhow, so my point is whether there's a whole thing. Yes. Watchfinders, it's not.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't really make such a big difference.
Do what makes you happy. If you don't want to set it, buy a watch box, watchfinder. Sorry. If you do want to set it yourself, buy a watch box. But please, for the sake of everyone, don't leave it just sitting out. Don't have your Rolex sitting on a desk. Don't have it in a drawer. Get a watch box for it. You've invested in this watch.
That for sure.
Buy yourself something nice.
Yes, and just enjoy the process of taking things in and out. Take something that is good for the watch, good for the band straps of the watch as well. Also give your watch. I mean, Philippe Dufour said this, and when he was asked, "Hey, what do you think about watch winders and all of stuff. He said like, no, don't use watch winders, whatever. I mean, if you want, yes, fine, but no need. But he said, wind the watch fully at least once a month. That's his advice. And he's a living legend. So who knows if he's right? Other watchmakers saying like, yeah, well, like everything, you can give your watch a rest. Fine.
Yeah.
Others say like, no, keep it going. So anyhow,
let's move on.
But
let's move on from this
storage
topic.
How do you travel with your watches?
Let's go on to traveling, because both of us have been traveling with watches. And I've gone through quite almost every single possible conceived way of taking watches. And I've kind of narrowed down to my current way of doing things. So the first travel thing that I had for a watch was a watch pouch. Mm-hmm. It was a 2-watch pouch. You put one watch on either side. It folds in half. You tie it together with a leather string, and then it was cool. The only issue I had was you have 2 watches dial side in, and these watches are knocking against each other. So I didn't like that. So that drew me towards the individual watch pouches. Generally, if you know the ones Rolex gives with their service, the individual little sleeves, right, with a leather card in the middle that you put the bracelet around.
Yeah, I sort of like
that. Generally works very well for a single watch. Yep. You put them in a pocket, you put them in somewhere, and you forget about it. And it generally is going to give enough protection, but not a whole heap. If you're dropping it, most likely that watch is still going to have some level of damage. But if you're putting it in your suitcase or inside of your travel bag, that generally is enough.
My recommendation is there from a packing perspective. Put your watch in a watch pouch if you have a single watch and you have a carry-on luggage. I mean, you don't want to check it in, not in your check-in luggage in any case, because it's expensive most likely. So put it, if you have a carry-on, put it on your pouch. If it's a single watch, put it in a sock, put the sock inside a shoe. So it's
that's
padded,
a good one.
Padded, protected. It doesn't squeeze.
And it can't go anywhere.
It doesn't go anywhere. You know where it is, right? And that's
one step above these watch pouches, though. If you do want it to be kind of cushioned, you can go and find these, either the circle ones or the sunglass holder type elongated ones. So once again, if you know Omega's service pouches, they're long, red, elongated things. They look like a sunglass holder. You put the watch in, it's a bunch of foam padding. That works perfectly. I know you're a fan of the round ones that you do kind of the same thing with.
Yeah, because they work so well for bracelets, right? As well.
Yeah. So these are, once again, all very good ones. And generally, these are ones that you're getting for free from people, right? Yeah. So you're not often paying for these.
They are the same quality. You can get them for $1 at AliExpress or for $30 from other brands.
And that's where all these people are getting them from. Yeah. They're getting it and then they're putting their names on it. Exactly. So that's one alternative. Then if we start getting into the multiple watches.
Yeah.
I, at one point in time, did invest in, because I have a Rapport watch box. And one of the often overlooked things, and this goes back to the storage as well, any kind of storage, get a cushion the size of your wrist.
Yes.
For the love of God, get a cushion the size of your wrist.
Some watch box companies and accessory companies do offer different sizes.
Yeah, multiple sizes
for their pouches.
Correct. So Rapport does this. They offer 2 sizes.
Yeah.
But here, and then they offer additional service where you can buy more different sizes. But they ship with 2 sizes. But here's the issue. So my watch box made by Rapport had the perfect size cushion for my wrist. So that means your watches are being, when you have a bracelet, they're not under tension. They're not under any stress. Same with your straps. You're putting it on the same buckle that you would normally buckle it at, right? So if it's a Tang buckle, then you would just push it into whichever hole it would normally be on. So I got this fancy Rapport watch roll, which I was very excited about, only to realize that it was too big. The cushions were too big for my wrist. And I could not put bracelet watches on there because either you leave it loose and then it's not safe to travel with because it's glung, 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 knocking about, or it's too tight and you're smushing it down. And I didn't feel
The
very
thing is,
comfortable with that.
sometimes with this squishing it down, it feels bad when you actually close it.
Yeah.
However, once it is closed, I don't think it exerts too much of power to stretch the bracelet or something. But it is sometimes it can be quite tough to squeeze it.
Yeah.
And I also found
there was another issue with this one was there were 3 individual rolls, and the sides of the rolls were cardboard, or whatever, card. And the inside was smushy, which meant if I had a larger watch, let's say like my sub, it couldn't smush down because the width of the watch was already to the width of the pad. So in that case, there's nothing you can do. There was no way. It was the stupidest designed watch roll ever.
Yeah.
So I know you're a fan of yours. You want to tell the ladies and gentlemen what you use?
Depends what I'm a fan of, right? I mean, there's some that have these individual pads that you can clip in and out. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll get to that in a moment.
These are like, I would say, the gold standard. First of all,
that's my favorite.
You can clip them. You can put them on the side. You can,
and they have tactile click.
They have this. What is it? Nice. Pushing. What are they called?
The little buttons or whatever they're called, right?
These buttons that you push buttons.
Pins. I don't know what they're called, but essentially you're popping them out.
Exactly. You can take them out separately, which is one of the things that I really, really like. I have a watch roll from Wolf that has a long cushion and separated by round rings that you push from the side into it. So it's one thing, but if you want to get into the middle watch, you have to take this thing. You unclip
the 2 side ones out.
You have to take one left or right, one off, take the ring off, if it's all bracelets, and then slide the other watch off. If it's of course a leather strap, then it doesn't matter. So it also depends what kind of bracelets you have.
Watch it is.
So in this case, with a bracelet, if you have all bracelet watches, you have to take one watch out and the ring out. Then you can get to your watch and then you put it back in. It's a bit annoying. So separate departments for each watch is the best. Then I have one which is really cool looking, which is from Boré Lepage, but it doesn't even have dividers, right? It has a very
and that's
nice,
the same as my wife's Louis Vuitton one, right? There's no dividers, one cushion.
So if you have, for example, 2 watches with a leather strap and one with a bracelet, you can't adjust the bracelet. That's your wrist, right? So you just close the bracelet and that squeezes the cushion at that size. Then you have left and next to it, you have then leather strap watches, and you can decide how much you tighten it when you put it on. But again, if you're too tight, not tight, and the watch next to it is tight, then it can shift back and forth. And if this watch roll is on a side in your luggage, for example, and gets shaken a lot, these watches will touch each other. Right?
Yeah.
They can actually move. And that's really bad. And that's when you have to make sure that everything is basically the watch roll, it's tight enough on the watch roll, and then it asserts some pressure from the watch roll itself so that nothing is actually moving. But you don't really know that. And that's why I feel a bit not so happy with that particular one for real travel.
But it looks real cool.
It does.
It looks so cool.
I take it with me and to watch meetups and these kind of things.
Yeah.
I really like the looks. But
you wouldn't travel with it.
No, and also it's heavy.
No. So my wife is using the Louis Vuitton one, which is exactly the same way as this one is. And that one is the same kind of style. We would never travel with it, but she uses it as her kind of watch box. So it sits on the table, it looks good, and she keeps a watch in it.
Now, with the recent announcement that in the UAE, for example, as well, that if you travel with anything, jewelry, including watches, worth more than 60,000 dirhams, you have you have to, I mean, officially now, you have to declare it. You don't have to pay anything for it, but you have to declare it while leaving and entering the country. No taxes. It's just that you don't have any issues.
Is this per item or total?
Per item.
Per item. So I can,
I think it's actually even total. Yes, it's probably even total. If you have jewelry, total, more than 60,000. So you should declare that. So some people travel with watches that are way more expensive than that. And even if they
Yeah.
don't take anything in their luggage, they just have this one on their wrist, it is already more than that. So they technically should declare it. Now, is this practical? Not so much, because if you travel a lot and, but this is one of the reasons. Also, a lot of countries are now looking at watches as ways to ways to transfer big amounts of money back and forth without declaring it. So that they are looking at specifically people who travel with a lot of watches. And then you might get into some trouble that you have to prove that you're exporting it. You might have to let it stay in the airport and just pick it up on the way back, or you have to prove that exactly the same watches go back. Yeah, right.
Let me leave my Richard Mille at the airport.
Yeah, you don't want
with
that,
these
right?
guys. So, great idea.
Arnold Schwarzenegger recently had this watch that he brought in, and he didn't declare it. It was for an auction, and obviously the watch will stay in the European Union, and that's why the German tax authorities said, well, then you have to pay taxes for it. Since you didn't declare it, you pay double it, which is the fine and the same amount of the taxes that you would have to pay. And obviously there was a big outcry of people saying, well, it's for good cause, it's for charity. It's like, he could have declared it. It's you importing something of value into the European Union, then of course you need to pay taxes for it. This is the law. It's not new. It's been there for 50 years.
Yes.
Right?
And this is the funny thing is oftentimes I've tried to declare something once going into Germany, and there was no one there. And
sometimes they are not, the customs is
they don't even care. Customs was not there. Yeah. So I ended up just walking through anyway. But this was not, I was importing my dog, and we had the EU paperwork for the dog.
Okay.
Nobody cared. Nobody gave a rat's ass about it. So
if you have the paperwork, you have to provide the paperwork before flying, I guess.
No, nobody took the paperwork. We had the paperwork. We never filed it because no one was there. We asked the customs officer and they said, no. This is Germany.
Oh, okay. Well,
so I was like, okay, fine. All right. So I'm guessing there could be a similar situation with watches as well.
So this is the thing.
Because it was the same people ultimately at the end of the day.
Why I'm saying this is like this amount of watches that I'm taking with me now on travel is actually less. I usually say, okay, one on the wrist and another one maybe in
one
in
the back. Absolutely.
But that's it. I used to love traveling with more watches, especially when you're on a 2-week trip and you're going to your family and you want to just change your watches because you enjoy doing this, right? It's my hobby. But nowadays, with all of the tax issues and this the problems that you might have,
all of these watch rolls that we talk about. So I found a solution to my 2 terrible ones. I did find Hodinkee has one called the Oval Watch Roll, I think, something like this. And it is made by JPM, John Paul Menicucci in Italy. And they are, once again, my wrist size. They're the snap ones. So the whole thing, each watch can come out individually. So I have one that's a 2-watch one. I have one that's a 4-watch one. And essentially, this is perfect for me, right?
Yeah.
And there's no chance that I'm going to be taking anything more than 4 watches anywhere, most likely, right? So if it's a watch meetup, that's the only time I would take 4 watches.
I think this is the cool thing. There's like my Vacheron Constantin overseas that comes with a box, which is a very cool one single watch roll, which is clip on and clip out, and it's really, really cool.
Yes, correct.
And it has the whole strap and the buckle.
Omega also has this as well with the little. So I have one of these watch boxes. This is where my Oris lives currently, in one of these watch boxes. So, but essentially, it's like a display watch box, but it could also be a travel watch box. So it's kind of nice.
And sometimes they have this. Zenith has this when you have this box in the big watch box, and actually it is a travel case, box. Right? You can.
IWC does this as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I think if you are, and again, I don't mind putting a very expensive watch in this little €1 or $1 AliExpress 45
round one,
45
the round zipper cases,
colored zipper cases that are nylon strong cases. They are cushioned. They are safe. The watch
probably safer than the more expensive ones.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it
doesn't rub against anything.
Yeah. So when we go to
Rivoli
Africa,
has a bunch of these, by the way. You can just ask any Rivoli. They will give you. They have hundreds.
Give you for free.
They'll give you them for free. Anyway, the one thing that I do despise, I do have one. I have one of these watch rolls that you physically roll up.
Yes.
And I hate it. I thought it would be cool. It is so useless. It is absolutely stupid. You have 4 or 6 watches, however many, shoved together, touching each other essentially. Even though I have a flap, right? Okay, they're touching each other through a thin leather sheet.
Yes, but it still doesn't feel like it's
there's no protection.
It's protected enough, right? Yeah.
I brought it to our last watch meetup, but it's useless. I got rid of it.
Yeah,
but
I know what you mean. It's a bit.
Yeah, it is good at storing straps. If you just have a bunch of straps, you can roll up your straps. That's cool.
That's a good idea, I think. But I think this is the thing when you have these. I had one watch roll which was also from Amazon, very cheap.
Yep.
Something like 120 dirhams, and it's also a zipper case. It's a one for 5 watches and has a carry handle on it, and it's super light, right? Because it's made of nylon and foam inserts, separate ones with nice dividers in it, all made of foam.
Yep.
It's this is an excellent watch roll, which is light enough, even if you only travel with 1 or 2 watches.
Well, this brings me into your Pelican cases. Grab and go. Right? There's a lot of companies that make these types of Pelican cases, which are essentially a suitcase, a plastic suitcase with foam cutouts for watches. Boom.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You can get these original
waterproof, bulletproof, anything.
You can use it as a step ladder if you like. I mean, you can stand on them if you're 100 kilos or less.
Those are super cool.
And I stood on mine. They really work. These cases are as robust as they say. They're watertight.
Advertised.
They have air pressure valves in them, so you can fly with them and still open them. They're really good. They're really fantastic.
All right. Last thing I forgot to mention. I don't know if you have anything else to add to the travel section, but I want to go back real quick and mention one thing.
Did you know there are actual real battery-operated travel watchwinders?
For those of us that cannot stand not having our watches wound, wow.
Yes, it is true.
Yes, I do know that because Wolf has the small one. It's AA batteries or something, or a cord, right? I don't understand, but no. Once again, the reason I never got into the watch winders was because my watches are manual. A lot of them are. Anyway, going back, the one thing that I did forget to say is sometimes you have to be careful about buying this is a watch box, going back to the watch boxes, buying a watch box. There was a watch box that I really, really wanted, was the Louis Vuitton 8 watch box. Yet there's a problem with that one. Our friends at Timepiece 360 had one for now years in stock. Mm-hmm. And there's one fatal flaw. And it's the fact that the cushions are too close to the top of the box. Therefore, if you have any thick watches or large watches, you cannot physically close the box. So this is something that you also have to consider, not just the size of your wrist and the pad that's on it, but also how thick are your watches and will the watch box close?
Fun fact. Really, yes. That's, I mean, you already touched on, of course, the size of the cushions. I had this one watch box.
That to me is the most important, by the way. I'd rather have a shitty watch box with cushions that fit my wrist than a very expensive one that doesn't.
Yeah. The one that my wife uses now is the one that I bought for myself, but the cushions were so small that I couldn't use them. Yeah. But it was perfectly fine for my wife. So great. Good for her. But these are the things where you just learn. But learn from us,
of course.
So you don't have to make the mistakes yourself.
I bought it and I had to give it away, sell it, do whatever because it didn't work. So
excellent.
Usually I give these away to sweeten a watch sale, right? So you have somebody that wants to buy a watch, they're on the fence and you say, okay, I'll throw in this watch box or I'll throw in this watch pouch or something. And usually that's how I get rid of them.
Yes. With the purchase of this watch, you get this little mug.
Yes, there you
go. For free. Like, all right.
Anyway, all right. On that bombshell, for once, almost we're on time.
Yeah, and we have given good advice. So
good advice.
Don't waste your money on travel watch rolls, but spend your money on a good watch box. Save your money on a watch winder
seriously.
unless you don't like to set your watch. So there you go.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, guys.
Condensed.
Well, thanks for bearing with us.
Bye-bye.
And once again, see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.